Well, they say that you're a fool. You believe in magic.
I'm Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me?
Some hocus pocus filling up inside. And I think somebody's making.
All right, welcome to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, and thanks for being here on the Sacred Spiral Network. This is episode 2 of relaunching of this show, and many thanks to Sacred Spiral Network and Kelly Brickle and all the hosts and other shows that are on the network. There's always stuff going on there, so there's lots of great programming. So you can find that at sacredspiralnetwork.com. And I'm so excited for tonight for our special guest, Mr. Gregg Olsen. I will bring him on shortly. I'm already getting tongue-tied here, so great. But welcome to the show. Feel free to say hi, where you're listening from or watching from. There's multiple channels that this streams on, and then the podcast version will be going up soon on all major podcast streaming channels as well. So I've been real busy here in Little Port Gamble up in Washington, and had a sold-out Ghost Walk tour last weekend that went great. It was a lot of fun. I've got a special investigation this Friday coming up. There's tickets available at portgambleparanormal.com, and so I have one this Friday on July 25th, and that is where we get to spend 3 hours in the Walker Ames house here in Port Gamble, and we kind of go through in depth every floor. We try and use different paranormal equipment, different equipment for investigating, and so it's I always love these ones because we get to kind of just sit and listen and try different things to see if any of the permanent residents here say anything back to us. I have another summer Ghost Walk tour coming up on August 9th. And then my last summer event is another special investigation on August 15th. That's a Friday. But thanks for being here. We got a lot of people checking in. So we got Katie's here. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Katie. And June. Hey, June. I'll be hitting June up to be a guest on the show at some point. Kathy, thanks for being here. And Linda, thank you. You as well. And Eveline, thanks you guys so much for being here. And yeah, we hope you'll join the conversation tonight. We'll probably try and hold off on direct questions until the end of the show. But feel free to ask questions throughout. And we got Bonnie from Kansas, from Topeka. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. And my good buddy Jason. Hi, Pete. Go Niners. Yeah, go Seahawks. Good friend Brian here. Hey, Brian Blackwood. Thanks for being here. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Another event that's coming up is near and dear to my heart, and it's the 16th Annual Port Gamble Ghost Conference coming up November 7th through the 9th. It's the 16th annual. I believe we're the oldest Ghost Conference on the West Coast, and our special guest tonight was one of the speakers that kind of helped kick off the Ghost Conference. many years ago, and I'm very excited to say that he is going to be returning this year to the Ghost Conference. And how cool is that? I may give him a hard time for being gone for so long, but he's been a very busy guy. So, but that's November 7th through 9th, and you can go to portgamble.com, and if you go to the events page, you'll get to see information. We're going to be posting information about speakers and classes very soon. I think we've got everybody picked, and so we're going to start getting the promotions going out for that. So stay tuned at portgamble.com or on the Ghost Conference page, Port Gamble Ghost Conference on Facebook. And Nikki, hello. Thank you. Oh, are you from Perth, Australia, possibly there? And Algelin, thanks for being here. Right on. Thanks, everybody. And KB, thanks for being here. Now, another thing I want to bring up, which we're going to talk a little bit more, upcoming is the West Sound Crime Con, and you can find the info for that at westsoundcrime.com. That is an event that my special guest tonight, Gregg, has put together. And so we'll be talking about that and in depth, just to kind of give you a taste of what's coming up. That's August 1st through the 3rd. And here's the owner of this network here, Kelly. Hey, thanks for being here and supporting. The West Sound Crime Con's coming up. I am lucky to get to speak at this event. I get to speak on Sunday, August 3rd at 2 p.m. at the Olalla Grange Hall. So very excited for that. Christine Bloom, hey, thanks for being here. My sister Melissa's here. Thank you. Yes, I'm telling you that Gregg is going to be at the conference. She might faint. Let's introduce Mr. Gregg Olsen here. Throughout his career, Gregg has demonstrated an ability to create a detailed narrative that offers readers fascinating insights into the lives of people caught in extraordinary circumstances. A New York Times, Amazon charts, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and USA Today best-selling author, Gregg has written 10 nonfiction books, more than 20 novels, a novella, and contributed a short story to a collection edited by Lee Child. He's an award-winning author. He's been a guest on dozens of national and local television shows, including educational programs for the History Channel, the Learning Channel, and Discovery Channel. He's also appeared on Dateline NBC, William Shatner's Aftermath, Deadly Women on Investigation Discovery, Good Morning America, The Early Show, The Today Show, Fox News, CNN, Anderson Cooper 360, MSNBC, Entertainment Tonight, CBS 48 Hours, Auctions and Snapped, Court TV's Crier Live, Inside Edition, Extra Access, Hollywood and A&E's Biography. Wow, Gregg is such a busy guy. In addition to television and radio appearances, he's been featured in Redbook, USA Today, People and Salon, Seattle Times, Los Angeles Times, and New York Post. He's a Seattle native who lives in Olalla, Washington with his wife, twin daughters, 3 chickens, Milo, an obedience school dropout Cocker Spaniel, and Surrey, a mini Dachshund who's so spoiled she wears a sweater. That's so cool. Let's have a big Paranormal Pete show. Welcome to Mr. Gregg Olsen. Hey.
Hey there, Pete. Boy, that was a long list of stuff that you read there.
I know.
I was getting tired even listening to it.
Well, you've been a busy guy for so long, and making waves in being an author and being on TV, and your books have made waves all over the place and captivated people from everywhere. So it's only warranted that you'd be highly requested to be everywhere.
I'm really happy to be here because I don't know if people know this, but we go way back, you and I. It was the Ghost Conference, but also, do you remember the fruitcake competitions?
Oh my goodness. I'm surprised that you didn't block those out.
No, that's, you talk about paranormal or a nightmare or anything like that. Judging those fruitcakes was absolutely the worst thing of my life, but also the most fun.
Those were really fun competitions. So for the context, in Port Gamble, we have a festival every year called Country Christmas, and it's in the beginning part of December. And early on, we would hold fruitcake contests, and Greg was kind enough to be a judge, so along with a couple other people, and so he would have to sit in front of an audience of people and try and keep a straight face eating all these different kinds of fruitcake that people would submit.
Hmm. There's some that I just can't get out of my mind right now, but there were some that were actually pretty good. So, I'm not a fruitcake fan particularly, but it was fun being in that group and being part of the Port Gamble experience for people because I think Port Gamble is amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying so. And I believe that you guys had palate cleansers
Yes.
in between the
Mhm.
fruitcakes that
Mhm.
may have warmed your belly when you drank one of
Yes,
the
we call
palate
that
cleansers.
palate cleanser is called whiskey.
Yes, that really
And you,
helps it
you
go
you
down.
do a lot of swishing around in your mouth.
Yeah, I had to do that one of the years that we did that. We stopped doing the fruitcake contest. A group of people in the company in Seattle were inspired by the fruitcake contest that you had judged the previous year. They did their own contest within their company and they brought the winner out to Port Gamble. Well, this was a media company, so they brought cameras and wanted to film me in front of the entire crowd of the fireworks show trying this fruitcake. And so I can relate to what you went through because I had to keep a straight face in front of all those people. And
Okay,
I'm
just
not.
one more fruitcake question. Did they win? Like,
This was, yes, they won in my heart
okay,
for
they
sure.
win. They
Yes.
almost had to.
Yeah, exactly. So that was awesome. Thank you for bringing that memory up.
Okay, you're welcome.
That's awesome. Well, you've been so busy with the Olalla Bay Market and Landing, which is an amazing place. If you are in the Puget Sound area, you need to make your way out to Olalla to see Greg's place out there. I mean, the view is amazing. What a great setting. Talk a little bit about the market and the food and everything that you have going on there, and then we'll talk about the other cool little spot that's there.
All right. Well, here's the thing about the market. I'm not a restaurant person. I'm not a retail store person or anything. But our little local market was closed during the pandemic, and it looked like it wasn't going to come back. And there's a history here of having this location serve our community since 1884, which is before Washington became a state. And it looked like it was at the end of the run. So we stepped up and bought it. And I'm telling you, it's a lot easier to write a bestseller than it is to run a store. So it's been a lot of work, but we're super proud of what we've done. We really feel like we brought the community together. We serve great food. We do a sourdough pizza crust that people love. It takes, 4 days to get it to your plate. Anybody who knows sourdough knows there's a process, right? So we do that. We also have a little community space here on the property. It used to be our post office, which we have AA meets there, kids group meets there, sewing group meets there. So it's become, it's a store, it's a restaurant, but it's also a community hub in a place that really needs one. And we're proud of
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome. Every little community needs something like that. I feel the same way about Port Gamble. We've got like the general store and all the little shops here that help create that community, and you've certainly brought that there. It's a fun little place, and in what used to be the little post office there, you've set up a museum of sorts, and looks like June Nixon's been there. She says, "I really love the market. Really great food."
Thank you, June.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the museum that you've got in there and where the stuff is from.
All right. So when we first moved to Alala, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was, in 1992, I'm a crime writer and somebody found out about it. Like, I'm not even kidding, like on the first day. And they knocked on my door and they said, "We know you've written some crime books. You should write one about our local story." And I kind of said, "Okay, what's the story?" And it was Dr. Linda Burfield Hazard. She was a turn of the century doctor, or so she said she was a doctor. She was a fasting specialist, which meant that she thought that she could cure any ailment that anybody had by fasting them down to basically skin and bones and then bringing them back to perfect health. The only problem was she was killing a lot of people when she was doing it, and she was taking their money. So it became, a worldwide sensation. They called this part of Olala Starvation Heights. She called her place Wilderness Heights. So I wrote a book. A lot of people have read the book Starvation Heights. I wrote a book about it. And then I started, there you go. And then I started collecting. I was getting all sorts of stuff back, off the internet, or, I was bidding on stuff from eBay. People would bring me things. And when we bought the store, Claudia said to me, maybe you have enough stuff to make a little museum. And which I think really meant maybe you can get rid of some of this stuff, out of the house. But anyway, it turns out that I did. So I have set up a museum that tells Olala's story, but it also gives you a look at what happened out here in 1911 that made everybody in the world sit up and look at this tiny little place to try to figure out, was she good, was she bad, was she doing it for money, what was really going on in Starvation Heights. So I've got the bathtub she did the autopsies. I've got the stairs that went upstairs where the women that are in the book, two sisters, one of them perished. I have that staircase. I have Dr. Hazard's business card. I've got the books that she wrote. So I have a lot of stuff about the case. And people who have read the book, what they love most is sitting in that bathtub and taking a selfie.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, maybe. You got a lot of people saying, "Great book. I've read that book." Thanks, Andrea and Kelly. Yeah, thank you. It's when I walked into that space there, being a medium, I immediately felt like crazy heavy energy just going in there, and it was like all around that bathtub.
Hmm.
And I was like, the closer I got, the more my stomach was doing flips and jumping jacks. And so I don't know if I could lay in there and take a selfie, but
I could pin you down, and then you could.
okay, well, maybe we'll make an event out of that or something. um, and
Hey, Pete, I'm not a
yeah,
medium. I'm not a medium. I don't know anything about that. But
sure.
I will tell you that I've come to believe that, as I'm a crime writer, and I've written about a lot of really bad things. People have, murdered their children or their husbands or whatever. And I've gotten very close to those cases, and I've been to the places where those things have happened. And I honestly do feel, I don't know what it is, but I feel like those places, there's an imprint left behind, of tragedy, of misery, of hurt. I don't know if it's because I'm bringing it because I know what happened, or if there's something there that is telling me something. But I want you to know I have that experience, and people that have visited Starvation Heights, where the house was, they all have it. And I can tell you, there was something there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not you. I don't know what that something is, but there is a feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and I look for experts like you to tell people, what is that?
Well, and I would say that everybody, you say you're not a medium. It's kind of my belief that everybody has that ability. I think we're all born with it, and it's how we grow up in our lives and everything. You know, that kind of buries that sort of thing, buries those feelers. Those feelers that we put out there. And so when you're saying you were getting a feeling and things like that, I think you're right that energy is probably imprinted in those areas
Mm-hmm.
where things happen because it was such a traumatic thing. Even something as a really happy event can imprint on a place as well, not just a negative sort of thing. So I think you're probably more of a medium than you think you are if you're feeling it. And
Right.
it's really about well, let me ask you this. When you get that feeling, when you go into one of these places, is it the same feeling each time? Is it like a similar type of feeling?
I can think of a few times when I really experienced it. Once in my very first book, which was about a little boy that was killed by his Amish father. And I swear to God, I'm not lying. I felt something when I went to the location where the little boy was last seen alive. And I want you to know, I felt either it was me telling myself I've got to write this book for him, or something more than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm hearing the words or anything like that, but I felt that compulsion and that but in that place right there. So I would say, not every place, but a lot of places that I've been to, has given me that feeling. And thanks, Eveline, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Intuition
yeah.
is a big part of it.
Yeah, and just recognizing it. And so to me, what you're describing to me is you're feeling that energy,
Hmm.
that's left in a place. And so next time I think you can recognize it since you've had it a number of
Hmm.
times. So just pay attention. During my first experiences with mediumship, or I didn't even know what it was at first. Our good friend Neil McNeil told me, well, now you feel it. Now you have to recognize it. And so just keep that, memory of what it feels like. So next time you feel it, pay attention. Maybe you'll actually hear something,
Hmm.
or feel something more. That's really cool that you've had that experience. With the stuff from Starvation Heights, well, I understand you can no longer do investigations out there.
It doesn't
For
really, yeah, the house where in the book, it's really in the house. Later, she built a big sanitarium building, but where the murders that I wrote about, they were in the house, and the house is gone. Um, but Pete, we are doing a like a pre-funk event before the Crime Con, and I'm sure Chris has already told you. I hope she has, that we'd love for you to come out to the property, and we're going to be hosting out there on the Thursday before the weekend in the
oh,
evening.
I that
So it's
sounds
your chance.
wonderful.
It's your chance,
That's wonderful.
right?
Okay, we'll talk
Bring your
offline.
camera.
Yeah, yeah. I'll bring a notebook and yes, an audio recorder.
Right.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Yes, that will be awesome, and be something I can report back on the show. I got somebody here who I know has investigated there a number of
Oh,
times. Mary Bethune.
I know Barry. Yeah. Hi, Mary.
Yeah. Lucky to investigate Starvation House years ago. Yeah, she's got some pretty good stories. And okay, well, that sounds wonderful. Thank you for that. We'll talk offline
Okay.
about that, and when I need to be where,
Okay.
that sort of thing. And Mary says hi back to you, Greg. Um, so the Olala Bay Market and Landing, everybody check that out. If you're in the Seattle area, it's really not that far, to come around and check it out. And plus see the little museum that you've got there. It's really well done. Did you design
I
how the
did.
layout? Yeah, it's
Oh,
very
for
well
sure.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you could be a museum curator
There
too.
you go.
Um,
Just something else I could do.
yeah. And did you know one last thing on Starvation Heights, just because that's a local thing here? Um, did you know the Ivers connection, the
Oh,
restaurant
yes.
Ivers? Isn't that wild?
Yeah, a lot
Uh,
of people don't know that, but Ivor's mother, Ivor's Acres of Clams is a it's a Seattle institution for clam chowder
Yeah.
and fish and chips, and it has been since I think the 19 like 30s or 40s, a long, long
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
So Ivor's mother, Daisy Haglund, was one of her victims, died under Dr. Hazard's care. And in the book, there's kind of an oblique reference to a woman and her little boy, because in the book, right?
Yes.
That is Ivor. He went there and had treatment too with his mother.
That is just amazing to me that how her reach to all the different kinds of people that went through there. It's crazy. I just thought that was pretty wild
Yeah,
that connection with the Seattle institution of
sure.
Ivers. And if you've never had Ivers clam chowder, to anybody listening out there, you're missing out.
Yes, and we
Um,
serve it every day at the market, just so
Hey,
you
there
know.
we go. Nice. We can, we can do plugs all night like this. This is
That's okay.
great. This is great. Well, I wanted to. We're going to save time for the West Sound Crime Con coming up, but you have been working on something new,
That's right.
and so I want to give you a chance to talk about Out of the Woods. And
And I'm going to show it.
there we
Here it
go.
is.
Yes.
All
So
right,
when is the release date?
August
Tell us all
1st.
about it.
Yeah,
August.
August
Oh,
1st, the book launches. I started this book. I think some of your listeners, if they're from the Northwest, they will know this story, which is exactly 20 years ago. A family was murdered in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And the two children, though the youngest two, 8 and 9-year-old, a boy and a girl, were found missing. They were gone. So the family was dead, the kids were missing, and they were missing for 7 weeks. I mean, it was a huge, huge story. Where did Shasta and Dylan go? And 7 weeks later, a restaurant worker at a Denny's restaurant recognized a little girl that had come in with a man and called the police, and Shasta was saved. She was 8 years old. The first thing she said to the police was, my brother's dead, and save my underwear. There might be evidence in it for you. This is what the 8-year-old girl told the police. She
What?
also then later told the police of other child murders that this monster, Joseph Edward Duncan, that's his name, other victims that he had had. So she had made notes in her brain that helped solve 3 other child murders. She was an astonishing kid. There was great, great hope that this girl was saved. And the book, really, Out of the Woods, is about her journey, not all successful, of overcoming severe trauma. And it has not been easy for her. There's a essay, if you guys want to look up, it was in Oprah Daily yesterday, um, about her journey and about, being known as that girl, and what people put on you when they see you as a survivor. um, they want that happy ending for you, of course they do, but you it's impossible almost for someone that young to process all the things that happened to her, because people did not want to hear about it. They didn't want to hear what he did to her and her brother in the woods. And that, so 20 years later, Shasta, has told her story to me in Out of the Woods. And I think it's a tough, tough read. It's the toughest thing and the saddest book you will ever read. But I really implore everybody to read it, because the reason her cure and her path toward, a normal life has been hindered, it's because no one would listen. And we really need to listen to these people so that we can make sure that we not only that we can help them, that we can stop the monsters, because people like Duncan, who's dead now, don't deserve a second chance. And I feel that very strongly about any kind of serious pedophile conviction. They can't get out, in my mind. There's no saving them. So we got to save the
Yeah.
ones that are here.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, was this just a really difficult one for you to write too? I mean, how did you get through this?
I mean, Pete, I could cry right now just talking to you when I think about it. It is that bad what this woman went through. She's 28 years old now. She has 5 kids. Her husband's in prison. She's been in and out of jail. She has just been through so much, right? And
Yeah.
her family is her brother's in jail. I mean, it's like it's been a just a nightmare, hellish life that she's lived. And yet, I want you to know she's full of optimism and hope still. So that's what I
Wow.
want people to know. Like, the human spirit, it's an amazing thing. And it is embodied in somebody like an 8-year-old girl who's now a 28-year-old woman, still seeking, a chance for us to listen.
Yeah.
And, so writing the book will always be the hardest thing I've ever done. There can be nothing harder than her story. There are things in her story that, I wrote about. There were things in her story that I couldn't even ask about. It was just horrible, because all of us can think of a little kid we know, whether it's a child of our own or a
Yeah.
nephew, or you look at that 8-year-old and you think, you know, how could anybody get through any of this? If this happened to so and so, it would kill him. And the answer is it probably would.
Right.
But the book shows you that she was uniquely qualified to survive this guy, because what have happened to her before she was kidnapped. So
Amazing.
that's her story. Her story of being saved at that Denny's restaurant was the middle of her story, not the beginning.
Wow. Great. Wow. I mean, I'm certainly intrigued. And so it comes out August 1st, and I've got your website up on the screen there for everybody to write down. You can do pre orders there. Well, that kind of, as you're talking about that, I hear the compassion you have for her and the compassion that you probably share with any story that you've written about over the years. Um, you know, there's I don't no one ever really fully heals, I think, from something like that. It's something that they carry with them. And I think they would probably carry a lot of that to them to the other side as
Hmm.
well. But on the other side, I hope they can find a way to shed that. But it kind of, there's a link between all of this. And I think as an author, you're kind of in the middle of this, this process for people of sharing the story and telling the story and getting it out there in a way that people can understand. Like when I read Starvation Heights, like how you laid it out was like, it just was so, you could understand everything and you felt like you were there. Talk a little bit about the importance of storytelling, in whether it's a fun story to tell or it's not a fun story to tell,
Right.
as you kind of described there. But, talk about the importance of storytelling.
Here's what I want you to know about storytelling. Of course, that's how we change things in our world. That's how we connect with each other. When we tell a story about ourselves or listen to someone else's story, that gives us that gateway to understand each other, right? So when I look at something like, Shasta's story or any story that I've ever, been given the opportunity to tell, and I always tell people this, it's the highest honor I'll ever have as a human being to help you tell your story, right? Now, it might be my book, but it's your story. So it's always laid out like that. And I do think people like Shasta, they're they're wanting control of their narrative. They want people to know the things that they want them to know, not the things that maybe were on the news for 1 second and made an imprint in somebody's brain about what kind of person her family members were like, or where she lived or how she grew up, all that stuff. That's all those little nuggets. They're all there, but they don't really tell the full story or even the truth.
Right.
So, that's what the book, Out of the Woods, gives her the opportunity to tell her story through me. Um, and I think that with her story, I want you to know that because so much happened to her out in the woods all those weeks,
Hmm.
that I knew that I couldn't write it in the way that a typical true crime book might be, which is all about the case. I had to look for a way in to tell her story, and I decided that the way in was through the therapy that she started when she was 12 years old and she was sent to Utah for one of those, internment camps for teenagers, basically is what
Okay.
it is. She went there and, she was there to get the treatment to try to, overcome all of her problems and all that. And I knew that that was the best way in because at 12, she'd already been on that journey of trying to heal for 4 years and wasn't there yet. So that's the book really starts with that idea, like, how do we tell the story? We tell the story through her attempts to recover. Now, we don't tell all of the story, for when she was 12. We tell it because she didn't have it all processed. So when she's 16, she's got another big moment in her life where she gets in trouble and meets with another, group and tells a bit more of her story and then resolves some of those issues with her father, which were big in her life and
Yeah.
in the book. So, the book does end with her at about 21, 22 years old. She's 28 now, so there's been a lot since then. Not all good, some good, but not all good. And I think for me, the therapy part um, was amazing because here's the thing. Shasta told me that everybody here has something bad that's happened to them, has some trauma within their lives, and they think about it often. And I know that's true. Every single person I've ever met has something. And she says, what happened to me, my trauma is not worse than yours. You don't, it's not like a scale where you're measuring, all these things
Yeah.
happen to me and therefore I
Right.
deserve, I deserve more of this because so much more happened to me. She's such a wise person because that doesn't help. What helps is to understand that, surviving trauma and moving past it if you can, is the same tough journey for anybody, no matter what happens to them. Right. And I think
Yeah.
that to me, like that's a big lesson for all of us to know. Like we can feel sorry for somebody and that's okay. Um, but everybody here's got something.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of just a life lesson and part of the human experience that we all have something, and people listening and watching out there, you know, maybe you're thinking of something you went through, and just know that everybody's got something. That's a wonderful. That's like a 10,000 foot
I think so.
perspective and it sounds like she was just a pretty incredible kid to be able to think like that. And Linda is saying, "Wow, that is so insightful at such a young age."
It is. Yeah.
Um,
She has, here's the thing. She has a lot to offer the world, I think. Um, but she has to get to the place where she can, right? Because I have spent a lot of time with her. I've talked with her a lot. I can see that insightful person that Linda's referring to. She's there,
yeah,
you know. She is really she is a special person. She's also still a troubled person. So, it's like, how do we fix that? And like I write about that at length at the end of the book. Like, what is the answer here for someone like Shasta? And the answer is we don't know because,
yeah,
as the song says, the rest is unwritten. We just don't know.
exactly. And I think if we just in general as a people could implore more of that we just don't know, I
Hmm.
think that's a gives a lot of learning space for everyone to grow, and so I think that's also a wonderful piece of insight
I
into
want to
things.
add something to that because you talked
Yeah,
about at the beginning of your show, we don't know everything. There's things around the world we don't know. And this is one of them. It's not necessarily paranormal, but it is, we don't really know how to fix somebody or heal somebody, or we do it. We
yeah.
do it to everybody that needs, that done to them. We would do that. We have the capacity for that, but we still don't know, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But I think storytelling, telling someone's story, I think is part of that. It's part of the growing and the healing of for somebody is telling that story. I kind of feel like here in Port Gamble with the paranormal. I feel like I'm keeping people's memories alive. I think anybody who leads ghost tours somewhere would probably have the same thinking that, we're by telling their story, you're keeping that part of them going, and that whether it's good or bad, it's that memory, and that's good for I think on the other side, because I think we're guided by our memories when we're on the other side. When we become ghosts, we're guided by our memories, and so by telling the story, that's why people like you are very important of telling these stories, although difficult to tell.
Hmm.
You're telling them, and people out there like me who are leading ghost tours and things like that, we're telling the stories of people and the experience and the human experience. So it's pretty cool.
I want to say, like with writing a book, I'm always aware that a book is finite. It's written and it's done, but there's also great power in it because it's there, it lasts, and however we communicate like this or whatever, that artifact is still there. And I always hope that, like 20 years from now or 50 years from now, maybe one of her kids or her grandchild or somebody will read that book. Now, she may be gone by then, and maybe she'd been gone for a long time, but her words and her message is still there. And I think in a comprehensive way and that's what I always hope for. When I write something, I think, oh, sure, people are going to Google on the internet and they're going to find out information about their relative or their mom or whatever. But I do think, I think that book, that complete, perfect, imperfect package, um, is a great artifact to leave behind for anybody.
Yeah, I this is awesome. So we got some good comments going here. Linda says this show and what is shared here is absolutely the reason we can hear about this kind of story and learn how to be a better person. That's right. Yeah,
Hey, I
thank
want to
you.
say something to Linda.
Yeah,
Linda, here's a great message because we all watch TV and we see these people. And today, there was a lot of coverage about the sentencing hearing for the Idaho 4 students, right? And I want everyone to know that at some point the media is going to go away. There's not going to be all of this coverage. We're not going to be seeing these families anymore, but they are still living with this and will live with it for the rest of their lives. Okay. And that's kind of like with Shasta's story. It's been 20 years exactly since she came home, and media moved on years and years and years ago. But in her sphere, the people close to her, would know that she was that girl, people not even close to her would whisper, "That's that girl that was held in the woods," blah, blah, blah. And as a society, most everybody else moves on. If you're not, and I want everyone to know that when these big things happen, these traumatic things happen, and they become public news, and we all think we can have the freedom to comment about it and say things about how somebody's reacting or doing. Um, it is unkind and hurtful, because it does not go away for them when the cameras are gone, and it
Right.
won't. It won't ever. So
It,
that's a big lesson. I want everyone to like think about it. Like, these crime things that happen are not a story. They're not for our entertainment. They are hugely tragic, and they last forever.
yeah.
Certainly in this life, and like you say, maybe into the next life.
I think that people can carry that stuff with them into the afterlife, and so it really could be forever.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that there's things that we can do on the other side to be able to shed that stuff and have an understanding and accept the light, basically. I had another great comment there just on this last part. We all have tremendous potential. It can take so much healing and help to get us back on the path of actively being with people or leading others. Yeah. And I think you were kind of touching on there's the potential in there, even though it's forever.
I do want to say what Kelly just said. I read her comment there about the active part. And that is the thing that is really important. In Shasta's years since her, rescue, from that Denny's, nobody would listen because it was too painful for them to hear. Now they listened to the degree that they felt that they could, but they didn't want to do the hard work of really, really digging in there and finding out what was going on with this girl and what really had transpired and how it had impacted her. It was like, it was so awful, they didn't want to talk about it. So I think that word active and actively being with people, that's the part that was missing for her. And I think misses for a lot of people. A lot of people do this. "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you." And they're patting them and giving them that love and all that stuff. They think that that's enough.
Right.
But I think the listening part is the really most important part of all.
Yeah, and someone being feeling like they're heard.
Hmm.
Exactly. Evelyn has a great little comment here. Always send love. We don't know what anyone else goes through. Love and compassion is always a great thing to send.
Absolutely.
We don't really know what other people are going through. So again, I've got your Gregg's website up here. If you want to get pre-order the book, it comes out real soon, August 1st. But you can check out all of your works there. I wanted to ask you, um, uh, what was the first thing that kind of got you attracted to the genre of true crime? Because you did journalism,
Hmm.
and what was it that kind of like steered you towards, I'm going to write a book?
Yeah, I'll tell you. It was because that was the book. Those were the books that I read. Okay. So I read, Ann Rule, the great Ann Rule, uh, Seattle native, Seattle legend, really. Um, and I read Jack Olson, I'm not related to. Those two authors happen to be in the Pacific Northwest, so I would go to like every book signing, every conference or whatever that they had,
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I could like Anne's book, Small Sacrifices, about Diane Downs, who, killed one of her children and shot them all. Um, Farrah Fawcett, who if your people are old enough, they would know who that is. I don't know anymore. I don't know who knows who anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, made a great mini series about it. It was a great. It was a fantastic book. And when I read those books, it was something I thought, like maybe I could do that. I got a journalism degree. Um, I don't want to work for a newspaper because that's too hard. So, I took a PR job, worked for a magazine for a while, and wrote my first book, which became a New York Times bestseller. I was, I think, 35 when I wrote it, and it was a true crime. I wrote it because that's what I read, and I always tell people if I was reading gardening books, I'd be on a gardening show right now, because I so much wanted to be a writer,
Yeah.
and
That,
to tell a storyteller, like you say.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think you were in a good place at the right times. For those authors. I was lucky enough to have Leslie, Ann's daughter,
Oh,
on my
sure.
show before, and just hearing her experiences of growing up with her mom, and all the things they would get into was pretty incredible. So once you wrote your that book, you were just hooked, right? Hook,
I mean,
line, and sinker.
yeah, I mean, it's what I wanted to do, but I will tell you, I've done it nonstop since then, and I don't really know how many books I've written because I'm just not good with numbers. But I will say that I, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the bottom sort of fell out of the true crime market because TV had really gone in there and taken control of all the stories. Before, a reporter from a local paper could go do the true crime book about the big crime that happened in their town, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of stopped, and so the industry sort of dried up. I switched to crime fiction, and I was equally successful there. I was very lucky because I thought that was going to be too hard, like making it up. But I realized that when writing crime fiction, I'd been in a pretty good place to be a student of crime by writing all those other books, right? So that's what I did, and then the pendulum swung again, and all of a sudden these things were called podcasts were coming out, and the number one really category was true crime for a long time.
Yeah.
Still is up there for sure. And that sort of brought back that whole part of my career in a big way. And I have to say that, you know, I had a book called If You Tell, which I bet some of your people have read it, because millions of people have. And the reason that book uh, became so successful, and that book's about three sisters banding together to overcome their abusive parents who killed people, in a horrible story here in Washington State, all true. Um, TikTok made that book a number one bestseller and published in like 25 languages or 30 languages. And
Wow.
it's because young people have come back to true crime. Even the podcast, yes, but they still read.
Yeah. That's great. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I,
young people.
yeah, thank God. Really, I mean, because I kept thinking, oh, my audience is going to die. I'm no spring chicken, but they're older than me, and I'm going to run out of people to sell a book to. But in fact, I see a lot more younger people, and my books lately have really focused, more on people that, within the story that are younger, like the
Yeah.
sisters in that book or Shasta. I feel like I want the people that are engaged in the new media to see themselves in the book.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I don't think the fascination with true crime and stories like that. I don't think that's ever going to go away. That's part of the human thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it kind of comes and goes in different ways, like you've experienced over the years, but it's something that like the fascination with ghosts. Like in my intro, I talk. What's the question that crosses all our mind every once in a while? What's
Yeah,
gonna happen to me when after I die?
yeah. Is this all there is? Right? That's the way
Exactly.
I would say it. Is this
Exactly.
it?
So it's kind of always it's kind of it's always going to be there. And I had a great comment before, so we're going to talk about West Sound Crime Con. Mike Beers, friend of the show here, all the childhood trauma I suffered and the adult trauma I suffered made me the person I am today. Although it was difficult to get through, I wouldn't change anything. When you think about the different people you've interviewed in the about the things that they've gone through, do you kind of get a sense from those people a little bit in that way that it's made me who I am? And maybe they would want to change some things, but
I think,
you know
the
what I
people,
mean?
yes, I know exactly what you mean. I know what Michael's saying there. I think about my own life, things that happened to me. I wouldn't want to change them either because I might not be here talking to you if I did. Like, which means, I don't know what that means, but I don't want to change that. But I will say that with the people that I've talked to, particularly people who have lost a parent or a very close loved one,
Yeah.
of course they wish it was different.
Yeah.
I think that that's their perspective, and I can see that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you of course want something like that to be
Hmm.
different and work
Right.
out differently, but I think, from the other side, what I've experienced in connecting with spirit is, if it was supposed to happen, it would happen. And, there's maybe not a reason that we can comprehend for it, but it's part of that soul's journey.
Right.
And, it's unfortunate that some people have to go through things, but it's part of that soul journey. And Linda said here, I'll be reading your books from the other side too. I'll figure out a way.
Excellent.
Let me know if you figure that out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Next episode.
Yeah, next episode you got it.
But
Well,
Linda,
let's talk.
not soon.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the West Sound Crime Con, because I think you've been looking at putting this event together for a while, and I think it's the way it's been set up all over Kitsap County. You've got stuff going on in many different locations. Tell us about West Sound Crime Con and kind of how was it born?
Here's the thing. I had this idea before the pandemic that I wanted to do some kind of event. I didn't know what it was exactly, and I was looking at, there's a big crime con. Actually, there's two of them, that brings, crime fans together. And I thought about then taking that idea and bringing it to the local, because kind of, I talked to some reporter today about, he lives in Kellogg, Idaho, which is where some of this stuff happened, and he said, reading your book, I recognize the places that I know, and that brings the story closer to them. And I think that's the same thing, like with this crime con, is like we're bringing, the people together in this region, and we're talking about the cases that are most sacred and most important to us. And that's, a way to, like, one, like, gather people together, but also to create some good energy to see if maybe we can help find an answer. So that was the idea. The pandemic killed it, and then Chris Renfro, who's the director, Chris and I talked about it a few months ago, not really that long ago, said, is this the time to do it? And it's kind of, she said, yeah, it's now or never. So, we put it together. We have a big event, at the Admiral Theater in Bremerton, where we've got a bunch of, it's called PNW Unsolved. We talk about some of those cases, like, you know, Lindsay Baum, her body was found, but we don't know who killed her. We talk about where is Susan Powell. I wrote about her in my book, If I Can't Have You, with Rebecca Morris.
Yeah.
We talk about, Oakley Carlson. That's a case that a lot of people, I say that name, if you're from around here, you know that case. So there's been many of them. So we have a great panel, a great evening planned there. We also have an in conversation with me and Andrea Dunlap. She's a writer and a podcaster. So we're doing that on Bainbridge Island at the Performing Arts Theater there, where we're going to talk about writing and about crime and about all that stuff, kind of like you and I are doing. In fact, maybe I don't have to now because we've done it. But yeah, but anyway, we have that event, and of course we have other ones too. We have a mystery dinner, experience here at the winery, murder at the winery, murder in Merlot, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And then I bringing in a lot of these authors that I admire. Um, so we have, James Renner's coming in. He wrote a fabulous book called Scout Camp, and he wrote another one called True Crime Addict. He's going to be here. We have Ann Yeager, who wrote a great biography memoir about Anne Rule. She's going to be in Gig Harbor at the History Museum. So we have people all over, but really, I'm expecting yours to be the best one,
Oh God.
because we had so much interest in you when you came out here to the landing and
Yeah.
did that event. I mean, it was standing room only. I don't know if, don't be shy about that. It was big. We have a little space, and you packed it. So I expect, Pete, you're going to have to conjure somebody or do something, because we're going to have a lot of people there. And and I can't wait for that. I can't wait to introduce you again, because I'm super proud of our connection. But
Yeah.
we've got a lot going on,
Well,
and it's going to be really fun.
I certainly am grateful for the opportunity to be there and talk about ghosts and spirits. And Mary's saying, "Yeah, no pressure, Pete." Yeah.
You got it.
Oh God. And then Mike saying he's planning on going.
Good.
And
Excellent.
our friend of the show, Michael White, he's going to be going too. You probably met him at the Port Gamble Ghost
Yep.
Conference years ago as well. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. It's what a cool event, and I think the coolest parts is where you mentioned you're getting people together to talk about this shared interest, and and yes, create that good energy.
I think so.
um, Before we wrap up, see, I could go for like hours here with you, but let me
This
ask
is
you. You mentioned Lindsay Baum.
this is sugar-free Red Bull. Just
Okay, well, we
okay.
need to get the sugar one going here. Yeah, I've got a diet here, so. um, you mentioned some of the cases like Lindsay Baum and things like that. Have you ever worked with a psychic medium?
No. Now,
Um,
I will tell you that with Starvation Heights, a lot of mediums came out
yeah,
to do an investigation. Some were felt totally legit. A couple of them I thought felt were like, I don't know why they were there.
yeah,
So I think it's, no, I haven't. But it's some of the cases I've written about, I know the police did.
yeah.
I know it's a thing.
I'm not saying I have something here, but
But you might.
because I don't want to be considered a suspect or anything.
Right, I know. It's scary, right?
Um, but in those cases where the police did use that, did you how would somebody go about that if they might know something, or they might feel something, or think they might know something? Like, have you ever seen like how that works in when you're investigating something, a story?
I think yes. I think I know what you're getting at. It's like you want to offer help that with a purpose and sincerity, right?
Yeah,
And here's the thing: not everybody will receive it in that way. So that's the tough thing. So
yeah,
I don't know, like if you have something on Oakley or Lindsay or something, and you have a feeling, Anne Bremner, who's very involved with both those cases, she's a lawyer. She'll be at the Crime Con at Admiral. She would listen to you.
okay. Again, I'm not saying I do.
Yeah, but
I'm not.
if you know somebody that feels like they might have something, here's the thing: um, there's no harm at all, and somebody reporting a feeling or whatever it is that you have. I don't think there's any harm in that.
Yeah,
I think the harm comes when somebody goes like directly to the family and makes promises and does
yeah,
things that are exploitative and cruel. And
yeah. It
but I
could.
think like
Yeah,
if I were a medium, if I had anything to offer, it's like I would go to somebody between the police and the family. I wouldn't go to the family.
yeah. That's way out of line, I think. Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, in the world of doing mediumship, it's
Hmm.
completely unethical to just be in the grocery store and be like, "Hey, you've got a spirit here that wants to
Yeah,
talk to you," and then
right,
give
right,
give them the reading right there.
right.
So okay, well, very very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
And
Not
good
like
to
it's
know.
you. We're not. It's not you. but
I
but I can make that connection with
Okay.
Anne.
Thank you. Yes, I will neither confirm nor deny. Um, so, well, this is Greg. This has been such a fun night. Thank you so much for taking time. I know you guys are super busy with getting ready for West Sound Crime Con. I got the website up here on the screen for everybody to see. Check it out. Go get tickets, RSVP. There's a lot of different events going on August 1st through the 3rd. You got Greg's book, Out of the Woods, coming out August 1st. So there's a lot hitting next weekend, and so you're going to be exhausted. So make sure you stay hydrated
Yeah,
through the whole thing.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and thank you to everybody who's commenting. And if I didn't get to all your comments, I'm trying, but thank you. We really appreciate the show support here. Thanks to the sacredspiralnetwork.com. But again, go to westsoundcrime.com or notorioususa.com if you want to see Gregg's works. If you are hooked now, there's a lot of books for you to read.
Yeah, we don't know how many, but there are a lot of them. Hey, Pete, I appreciate your time, and you know, I was kind of nervous about coming on. You made it so easy, and your audience was so kind and supportive. I appreciate that too.
Isn't it a great audience? Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And my goal is to have people learn something and have fun doing it in a good way. And thanks, Linda, and everybody. Before we leave, I used to do a toast at the end of my show. And so I did the same quote for 3 years, and I think everyone got sick of it. So I have a new toast that I do, and hopefully it hits home with people. And it was written by the one and only Molly Orbea, my lovely wife. So, the earth is heavy, but the universe is light. When met with stress or sorrow or even overwhelming joy, know that today is the history of tomorrow. Accept it for what it is and move forward into the brightness of the next moment. Take that with you guys into next week. If over the next month, stay tuned at my Facebook page or YouTube channel, The Paranormal Pete Show, and I'll be having a show mid-August, and I'll be announcing guests very soon for that. Gregg, thanks so much again, and we will talk offline about next Thursday, the pre-funk, and
there you go.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'll talk offline here, and with that, I wish everybody a wonderful rest of the week, rest of the month. Be safe. If you're in hot areas, make sure you're staying nice and hydrated and cool, and we'll see y'all later. Thank you. Have a good night.